So I came across a scripture today that really spoke to me, and I know I've heard this scripture before, but that's just like that's the beauty of scripture, is that sometimes things catch your eye, and sometimes it it kind of goes over your head, and it's just kind of the season of life that you're in. That's why it's called the living word, because it is living, and it's always going to be catching you where you're at. And so the scripture is Proverbs 23 verse 7, and it says, what he believes in his heart he will be. And that is something that is so powerful to me right now, because as I've been alone, not in a relationship, not in surrounded by people that fake friends or fake relationships, or just like toxic relationships, I would say that's all I've ever really known in my life, unfortunately, is toxicity. And so now that I've stepped back from all that and been alone for 7 months, or several months, I guess, not 7 months, but several months, I just have really learned how to hear my own thoughts, and what brings me peace and what does not bring me peace. And so when somebody comes alongside you after you've had your peace for a while, and you can quickly see how much that person can take away your peace, or they can bring more peace to you. And that's really important for people to learn at a young age, and I just never learned it. And so here I am learning about it and realizing how many AI generated people were in my life. And by that I mean fake people, like people that are very artificial, and they come in the form of zombies and vampires, which we all know those are made up creatures. But to the reality is that they really do exist here. We are in contact daily with vampires and with zombies. And zombies may not be dead in the flesh or physically dead, but there's a lot of people walking around here that are dead in the spirit. And so trying to convince those people of certain things, or trying to prove to them who you are, when they just they can't even see the truth for their own life, that's something that's really challenging to be around daily. And then those energy suckers that are vampires, they're not necessarily sucking your blood, but they're definitely sucking the life out of you. And I didn't realize how many of those I had in my life, and how many of those people that were in my life were not necessarily there because they wanted to be there. They were there because they were gathering information. They were gathering information about me that they could then use against me. And that's where little by little I started getting myself, stripping myself of who I truly was, because I didn't want it to be used against me. And I knew that I wasn't, I'm not a bad person. I'm not, a rebellious person. I'm actually the complete opposite. I'm very much a truth seeker, but people don't like the truth. And so when you start to seek the truth, you start to get shut down pretty regularly. And especially when you're, on top of that, when you're dealing with your mental health and your physical health, and just trying to keep yourself alive and trying to raise kids, you can really easily lose yourself, because you can't focus on one thing at a time. You have so many things playing, and then you have vampires and zombies that are just trying to twist and manipulate the truth of who you are, and make you feel guilty for who you are and for what you stand for. And over the years, I became this shell of a person that was afraid to be who I truly was meant to be, because I didn't want to step on anybody's toes. I didn't want to upset people. I didn't want to offend anybody, but I was quite okay being offended all the time. I was okay with people walking all over me. As long as I didn't hurt anybody else, I was okay with getting hurt. And that, let me tell you, that is what led to my mental breakdown back in 2023. It led me to have completely lost sight of who I was, what I stood for, where I even wanted to be in life. And it was it was the most confusing time of my life, because it literally felt like the entire world knew something about me that I didn't know. And I didn't feel like this world was real. I felt like this world was fake, and that everything on it was fake. And it was hard to even explain to anybody without being told I was crazy, because I knew it sounded crazy, but it was my reality. It was how I felt, because I felt like there was nothing in my life at that moment that had ever been truthful. My marriage, my friendships, my family members, like nobody in my life seemed like they were real, because they had led me and deceived me so much into believing false things about myself, for their gain. And that was, placed on me at a young age, I believe, because I've always, like I said in the past, I've always felt like a burden. And so it was because of my heart condition. And so then it just made me a people pleaser, and it made me want to make everybody else happy. And it didn't matter if Danielle was happy, as long as everybody else was happy. And I'm still finding that to this day. Yes, I got a job that I absolutely love, but at the end of the day, I was still doing it so that I could provide for my boys, for my kids, and for my daughter. And I was doing it so that I could, have a purpose for other people. And now that I actually have experienced my job and learned that the root of it is that I do love to serve people. And I don't care what people think. I don't care that people are like, oh, you're a server? Like, oh, you work at a bar? Like, I don't care. Like, that's something that fulfills me. And I would much rather find something that I love and live that out than try to, live a life of, because somebody else thinks it's better for me, and not be happy in that, like that doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense to me any longer to sacrifice myself for somebody else to approve of me, and that's where I'm at right now. Is that scripture really spoke to me, is like removing the zombies and the vampires out of my life has helped me to truly hear, like, from the voice of God, but also the voice of Danielle. Like, what does Danielle want? What does Danielle thrive off of? And where does she get her, her momentum and her gasoline to continue to run on life? Because for the longest time, it was like everybody was always congratulating me for not dying. Like, that was all I was good at, was like, you're really good at staying alive, Danielle. Like, that's really sad to think about, that was the one thing that I was looked at like, well, yeah, Danielle's been through a lot, but she's really strong. I don't want to be just strong. Like, that's not something I want to be, is strong. I want to be influential, and I want to be who I was designed to be, because that's who God created me to be. Not just to, like, literally live to survive. Like, that was such a dark place for me to be. And now that I am living my life for myself, obviously I have 4 kids to take care of, and those are one of my main reasons to push through and continue to thrive, because I want them to see that, yes, your mom has been through a lot, however, she never gave up. And that's the reality of my situation, is that I have not given up, and that's something that I'm super proud of. I just allowed, other people to distort my thinking and who they thought I should be versus what I want it to be. And if you're in a relationship, or you're surrounded by people who are constantly questioning you and what you're doing, or concerned about what you're doing, or, you need to be careful with this, or, like, I'm sorry, but F those people. Because those people do not have your best interests, because they do not want what's best for you, because what's best for you is what you want. And, I say that lightly, because there are some people that make really bad decisions, and they probably do need a little more guidance. But for the most part, the people that are people pleasers are constantly trying to live to please other people, and they stop living for themselves, and that just puts you in survival mode. And so I just wanted to encourage anybody who needs, a little bit of help and encouragement, and kicking those people that are sucking the life out of you to the curb.